In his 8 years, one political party has held power in Mexico. It's ruled all his parents' lives and all his grandparents' lives. But tonight it seems as though the whole town is here to pay tribute to the man they believe can change all that. Vicente Fox, a man who wants to be the champion of the peasants and Mexico's ruling class alike. He's already given the country something it's hardly ever had before, a campaign where the result is genuinely in doubt.
Every day I wake up in the morning and the first question I ask myself is, where am I? Question number two, what the hell am I doing in politics? Because it's not my vocation, it's not my project in life. I just want to contribute to the change in Mexico, contribute for Mexico to have a democracy.
Libertad Street, Mexico City. The cameras are rolling. The struggling families who live here and the street kids have flags to wave. Vicente Fox wants to shore up his city vote and show his compassion for Mexico's poor, all 40 million of them. He's also trying to persuade the people that it really is safe to ditch a regime that's been called Latin America's perfect dictatorship, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, the PRI.
We have two profiles of electorate. One is the better educated, the more reflexive, those who have wealth, and of course they want everything very civilized, no violence, and they don't care too much about whether democracy hits Mexico the 2nd of July of this year or 6 years later or 12 years later. And there is the poor, those who suffer, those who are unemployed, who say it has to be today. I mean, no more tomorrows. This is the country of tomorrow. We need solutions today.
Ironically, it's the people Vicente Fox says don't care so much about when change hits Mexico who are flocking to him. The urban rich and middle class who've been drawn to the former Coca-Cola executive's glitzy campaign.
Gracias.
México, 3 de julio del 2000.
A pitch that's seen a small right-of-centre opposition party grow into a movement to threaten a regime that's lasted 71 years.
Vota Alianza por el Cambio. Presidente Fox.
En la del elector ya estoy peinado.
But his support in the city, though impressive, won't be enough, which is why the candidate and his adopted daughter are heading out of town and into the stronghold of the PRI. Vicente Fox is going north, promising to end party corruption and to confront those who've thrived under it.
How can Vicente Fox make a difference against the Mexican drug lords where others have failed?
Well, because I am clean, I am transparent, I am honest, I have no commitments, no political commitments. The problem of narco traffic has been built up in Mexico through participation of the same authority and same government, at least some people within it.
He's taking on a system of official patronage that has flourished under the PRI, and that in rural Mexico has become a way of life.
It's been long struggle and fight. 3 years of a campaign. We've done our homework. People is waking up, so we will win July the 2nd.
But in fact, that isn't what the morning newspaper headlines and his own polling are saying. They're telling him that the PRI is keeping hold of the people who have always been its most loyal followers. He leads in the cities by 12 points, but he trails in the country by 20.
Hay de cabeza tres hombres que quieren ser presidentes. Omito decir sus nombres.
Beneath the mountains of Teposteco, a 70-year-old peasant is singing me a song he's written for the PRI.
Que triunfe el que tenga más, es lo que siempre les digo.
It's his tribute, a sign of his loyalty. As long as he's been alive, the party has been the provider. Don Pancho belongs to the Union of Workers and Peasants who follow the PRI. After all this time, the party is virtually indistinguishable from the state.
Y les está introduciendo la luz, así como drenajes para el servicio sanitario. Y un ciudadano triunfa por el lado del PRI, porque si es de la oposición, le reducen el presupuesto.
Don Pancho and his wife have been promised that if they vote for the PRI, they'll be given a present.
Que es un paquete, sea cartón o sea bolsa de plástico, incluyen arroz, café, galletas, aceite, frijol y otras, chocolate, las cosas que las amas de casa utilizan en el hogar.
He says he doesn't like it, but he'll accept it anyway.
Pues lo creo incorrecto como hombres de dignidad, no habíamos de vender el voto.
PRI's profile of voter is the poor and the poor of the poor, is the least educated, and is the eldest. And they account for 37% of the vote. Now, you can see there that the votes they get, they take them out from ignorance or they take them out for hunger. And many people in Mexico don't have enough food to eat every day.
Señora González. Buenos días, amiga.
His campaign team is doing what it can. The message, pretty simple. Mexicans are told to accept whatever they're offered, but to vote for Fox anyway.
Candidato personalmente. Y además, esta despensa.
Gracias, pero mi voto no se vende.
Ya, vota por el cambio.
And the candidate has swapped his city suit for a cowboy hat to remind the people that he was born in the country.
And I shared the toys with poor kids, sons of campesinos. Those kids that were friends of mine, today they are still my friends.
Another tactic is simply to stand out, and at 1.9 meters tall in his cowboy boots, Vicente Fox does. His sometimes erratic campaign style has seen him dubbed the Bronco. Though he cultivates an anti-politician image, the 57-year-old has invited the cameras home to meet his mother. Taking them on a guided tour of the ranch where he grew up. A devout Catholic, he talks of his Jesuit upbringing.
The philosophy of their teaching is that you find your own personal realization or accomplishment through serving others, through being for others, for thy neighbor. And that's, again, one of my philosophies in life.
Vicente Fox does just about anything he can think of in public that the ruling party candidate wouldn't do. That includes speaking bluntly and resorting to personal attacks, something else new for Mexico. He likes to call his pre-rival Shorty.
He needed a little bench for the debate. I just wanted to make him mad, yes. It's being myself. Sometimes I use dirty words, which we all use. And I just wanted to be very citizen-like, speak the very simple language that citizens speak. I think in Mexico we all reject this sophisticated language of politicians. So I try to be myself all the time.
But the ruling party candidate is also exhibiting the common touch. Former Interior Minister Francisco Labastida says he represents the new PRI. He's apologised for past corruption, and his government has gone to extravagant lengths to prove that this election will be clean, spending $3 billion of public money on a new, supposedly tamper-proof voting system. Even if many people find it all a bit much to believe. In one of the world's biggest cities, life has always been hard. Mexico City is violent and polluted, and dirt-poor Mexicans are still streaming in from the countryside. 3 years ago, with a soaring crime rate and protests snarling the streets, the PRI surrendered control of the metropolis to an elected official for the first time. Hundreds of police and other law enforcement agents were arrested on corruption charges.
El hecho de que durante tantos años se construyera un régimen basado en impunidad, en corrupción, en inercias corporativas. Muy bien, felicidades.
A normal day at the office for Mayor Rosario Robles. Chaos. Her crusade to clean up after the PRI is front page news, even if all she's doing today is checking on the progress of a new rail line. And she isn't buying Labastida's new PRI.
Nadie en este país va a creer un triunfo del PRI con un porcentaje pequeño de diferencia, y esto pudiera conducir a una situación extremadamente riesgosa.
In the city, there have been complaints of public servants being coerced into supporting the party.
De ahora, durante años, para comprar el voto, para comprar las conciencias, se le obliga a la gente a votar por el PRI, a entregar la credencial de elector, o se compra la credencial de elector, y la gente vive en una pobreza tal.
For people who have nothing else, selling a voter ID card is hardly a difficult choice. This is the poorest part of Cuernavaca, a town that's an hour's drive out of Mexico City. Hundreds of families eke out an existence along an abandoned railway track. I've been brought here by Modesta Gonzalez, a nurse who's been tending to the children for years. She wants me to meet a former patient, Patty.
Hola, Patty.
Patty's home, an abandoned railway carriage, has burnt down. She's desperate for money, and PRI officials have been here offering to buy voter ID cards.
Sí, por el voto ofrecían 150 pesos.
She says dozens in the community were approached, but they won't talk to us because everybody fears retaliation.
Pues tienen como miedo, porque luego el PRI les dice que les va a dar lámina, material, despensas. Y piensan que si ellos hablan, ya no les dan lo que les ofrecieron.
Es un lugar que está ocupado por mucha gente.
Modesta has a story of her own. Her son, she says, was approached by a PRI deputy and promised a scholarship if he made copies of the ID cards of 10 of his friends.
Yo le dije a mi hijo, ¿por qué lo vas a hacer? ¿No tienes convicción de que tú no eres parte de la corrupción? Dice él, mamá, es que yo necesito el dinero. No tenemos para la colegiatura. Necesito dar ese dinero para mi beca, lo necesito. Por eso lo hizo. Yo me indigné bastante con él, le dejé de hablar porque no son los principios que le hemos enseñado, pero él por la necesidad económica dice, sí, y corrió, juntó las credenciales y las llevó.
For international monitors here to observe the election, the new PRI is turning out to be not so new, after all.
That's the way it happens in most of Latin America, vote buying. There's a very narrow gray line between deserving votes and buying them. I mean, if you offer a bridge, are you buying a vote? Or if you offer a T-shirt, are you buying a vote? If you offer money, certainly you are, and that's illegal, but there are some gray areas.
Vicente Fox is becoming an expert on gray areas. He needs to be. A citizens group he set up to watch the PRI is delivering another of its regular briefings. Things are better than the old days, but the old days weren't so long ago. He says in the presidential race of 1988, the ruling party resorted to stuffing ballot boxes.
At 8 o'clock in the morning, before the places to vote were open, all the boxes were already filled up with votes. We people had to take them out, put them up on the street on a pile, and fire them up.
On July 2, his volunteers will be watching more than 100,000 polling booths.
On election day, through all these kind of irregularities, immoralities, and illegalities, they will erode our vote at least by 3 to 5%.
An ID check to gain admittance to the compound of a pre-patriarch, a party veteran of 50 years, who says claims of voter cards being bought or copied are lies.
Buenas tardes.
Don Luis,
bienvenido. ¿Está usted en su casa? Esos son dichos que no tienen ningún fundamento real. En mi partido, en el PRI, no somos ingenuos. Además, el elector cuando va a votar está solo, protegido, y él sabrá por quién vota. Es falso que se recojan credenciales electorales. No sirven para nada. Sirven únicamente al propietario.
We've spoken with other people who tell us that they've been promised food, rations, if they vote for the PRI.
En el pasado ha acontecido y no es difícil que esté aconteciendo en el presente. Esto es un mal de toda democracia incipiente. Todos. Pasa en los partidos, desafortunadamente.
But if it happens again and a tight race turns into narrow victory for the PRI, Vicente Fox isn't the kind of man to back down.
Se comprometen a acompañarnos a sacar al PRI de los Pinos.
A shoot from the hip style has brought worldwide attention, and he isn't accustomed to losing.
Por México.
Being a candidate fighting for democracy, you need that kind of strength. Mandela needed it in South Africa, and all these leaders that had to fight a dictatorship or a long-term standing government need that kind of courage.
If on July 3 you wake up and you haven't won the election and you're convinced that fraud of whatever variety has denied you that victory, what will you do?
Whatever people want. But we will do something about it, no doubt. I don't decide in advance. We will decide what to do then.
His country is nervous. In Mexico, power is never surrendered easily. But on this evening in Sonora, there is the unmistakable sense that win or lose, time is catching up with the PRI. And that Vicente Fox is tantalizingly close to making history.